Hey guys, I wanted to make a little video just to kind of walk you through the essay assignment sheet. I don't know how you guys are doing on this, but I'm hoping this will help. Sorry, my brain just went away. Okay, anyway, I'm hoping this will help you kind of just finalize the essay this week. I've had a couple questions about it, so I wanted to go through some things. First, just like our last course, all of your essays are kind of like responses or I guess other versions of, maybe not other versions, but things that are the same topic as the reading that we'll do in the previous project. And so we just read an essay about, or an article really, about managing relationship conflicts. And so now I want to know, how do you do that? So you're kind of building on what we have read, but you're taking that information and applying it to yourself. And so for this essay, I'm actually giving you guys a lot of different options on how you want to approach this. So when you see these options, 1, 2, 3, and 4, just know that you just want to pick one. And so I'm going to talk about each option and kind of give you like a plan for how you would break that essay down. So for option 1, thinking about managing conflicts in relationships by Rudolf F. Verteber, pick 3 ways that he says we manage conflict. Write an essay and explain a time when you handled conflict in each of the 3 ways. Okay, so if you pick this option, you would have your introduction, you would have your first body paragraph, and maybe in that body paragraph you talk about managing conflict by withdrawing, and you would give an example of a specific time where you were having an argument or you're fighting with someone or there was conflict, and so you would just decided to withdraw, and you would talk about that example. Then you would move on to your next body paragraph and you would come up with a new example for a different way you manage conflict. And so maybe in your second body paragraph, you would talk about how one particular example conflict that you were in made you aggressive. And you would do something similar in your third body paragraph. So maybe you would take the discussion example and you would talk about a specific example where you used discussion to manage a conflict. And that would be the main idea of your paper, of your essay. Body paragraph 1 is one example of one type of conflict you've dealt with. Body paragraph 2 is another one. Body paragraph 3 is a third. Then of course, you know, you'd have an introduction and a conclusion. With option 2, you could also do this. Write an essay where you describe 3 people you know, defining each as one of the following. And so then we have a list of the 5 ways that people manage conflict. And you would write a paragraph about each one of them. So you would have your introduction and your conclusion, but in body paragraph 1, you might talk about your mom and which style of conflict management she uses. In body paragraph 2, you might talk about one of your siblings and which style of like conflict management they are using. And then in body paragraph 3, you might talk about your significant other or your kid or something like that and what style of conflict management they're using. And you could give examples to explain that, or just, you know, talk about, you know, how do you know that that's their conflict style. So then you have 2 more options. Option 3 is, I think, a little bit more detailed. Option 3 says that at the beginning of the essay, there are 3 causes for most conflicts: facts and definitions, values, and ego involvement. And so you'll have to really make sure that you understand what each one of those means. Reread the examples he gives, and you can probably recall a conflict that you've been in based on one of those causes. So this essay is not really, option 3 is not about how you manage the conflict, but what causes the conflict. you would want to say, you would write an essay and your thesis statement would say, I have been involved in conflicts that stems from facts and definitions, values, and ego involvement. And that would be the focus of your 3 body paragraphs. First, you would give an example of facts and definitions that caused conflict. Then you would give an example of where a value system had caused conflict. And then you would give an example of the ego involvement causing conflict. And so this requires you to really understand what those 3 things are. But really what you're doing is just giving examples of those 3 things, 1 per body paragraph that you've experienced. Option 4 is an alternate to option 3. What you could do instead is pick one of those causes for your entire essay and give 3 separate examples. So maybe your thesis statement would say, I've been involved in conflicts that stemmed from ego involvement. In body paragraph 1, you would have 1 example of a conflict that stemmed from ego involvement. In body paragraph 2, you would have another example that stemmed from ego involvement. And in body paragraph 3, you would have a 3rd example that stemmed from ego involvement. Whether that was your ego, whether that was someone else's ego, it doesn't matter. So you get to pick which one is the best for you. I think that option 3 is probably the most difficult. Option 4, I would say, is a little less difficult. And option 1 and 2, I think, are equally simple. You want to make sure you have an introduction. You want to make sure it starts with a hook sentence, that it has background information, that you have a thesis statement. You want to make sure you have your body paragraphs, and I kind of have, again, in writing, laid out the things I just talked about. Make sure all your body paragraphs have a topic sentence that states the main idea, some supporting details. Your supporting details are going to be the examples. What you're writing here is a paper that uses examples as its mode of support for your ideas. And then make sure that the last sentence of your paragraph is a concluding sentence. And then of course you'll have a conclusion. That's all I need you to do for this paper. I do have an extra credit option where, because we're really thinking about someone else's ideas and we're applying them to ourselves, we're kind of starting to work with citing other people's work in maybe in an indirect kind of way. And so I have an extra credit option in Blackboard where you can write a citation for the managing conflicts in relationships. So if you want to do that, you can, but it's not a required part of the essay. It's just going to be extra credit. I hope that this helps you understand the essay a little bit better, and if you have any questions, please let me know.